Gabby taking it in, she sees the opening, hits her with a little in and out crossover, goes straight to her strong hand.
Seattle Storm's forward Gabby Williams has openly expressed her concerns regarding the WNBA's new prioritization rule, describing it as very harsh. This rule, which will be strictly enforced starting in the 2024 season, mandates that players report to their WNBA teams by the start of training camp or face suspensions. It is a regulation that is causing significant controversy, particularly among players who have careers overseas during the WNBA's offseason. Let's explain the prioritization rule explained. The WNBA's prioritization rule was introduced in the latest collective bargaining agreement signed in 2020. The rule requires players to make the WNBA their top priority over any commitments they may have to teams in overseas leagues. Historically, many WNBA players spend the offseason playing for international teams to supplement their incomes, as overseas contracts tend to be more lucrative than those in the WNBA. However, with the implementation of the prioritization rule, players who don't report to their WNBA teams by the first day of the season could face significant penalties, including fines and suspensions. Gabby Williams, who has played professionally in both the WNBA and overseas, has been vocal about her concerns with the rule. According to Williams, the rule puts players in an impossible situation. Many WNBA players rely on their overseas contracts to earn a living wage, and being forced to prioritize the WNBA without adequate compensation in the domestic league creates financial challenges for many athletes. In an interview, Williams called the rule very harsh because it doesn't take into account the unique financial realities that many WNBA players face. Unlike their counterparts in other major American sports leagues, WNBA players are not paid millions of dollars per season. As a result, they often have to supplement their income by playing in countries like Russia, Turkey, and Spain, where they can earn much higher salaries than in the WNBA. The financial disparities between WNBA salaries and overseas contracts are a driving factor behind the criticism of the prioritization rule. Players like Gabby Williams can often earn multiple times their WNBA salary while playing internationally. For example, top WNBA players can make around $200,000 in WNBA, but many earn well over $1 million in overseas leagues. With the prioritization rule, players are essentially being asked to give up these lucrative opportunities to comply with WNBA regulations. This puts players, particularly those who aren't among the highest paid in the WNBA, in a difficult position. They must choose between their financial security and their commitment to the WNBA, which many see as an unfair choice. Williams has emphasized that the league should consider the financial needs of its players before enforcing such a strict rule. Another concern raised by Williams and other WNBA players is the impact the rule will have on international play. The WNBA season and training camps often overlap with the end of European league seasons, making it impossible for players to be fully committed to both without facing penalties under the new rule. Gabby Williams, who has played for teams in Europe, argues that the rule not only forces players to choose between leagues but also damages relationships with international teams. Overseas teams may be less willing to sign WNBA players if they know they will be required to leave before the European season concludes. Williams isn't the only player who has spoken out against the prioritization rule. Many WNBA players, including some of the league's biggest stars, have voiced their frustration with the regulation. They argue that while the WNBA is pushing for increased commitment from players, the league is not providing the financial incentives necessary to make that commitment realistic. Several players have called for the WNBA to increase salaries and benefits to a level that would allow them to forego overseas play without sacrificing financial security. Until the league addresses this issue, players like Gabby Williams will continue to view the prioritization rule as punitive and impractical. Gabby Williams' criticism of the WNBA's prioritization rule highlights a broader conversation about player compensation and the league's efforts to maintain its status as a premier women's basketball league. While the WNBA's intention is to prioritize the growth and competitiveness of the league, players like Williams believe the rule fails to consider the financial realities faced by its athletes. As the 2024 season approaches and the rule comes into full effect, it will be important to see how the league responds to these concerns and whether changes will be made to address the players' grievances.